According to the U.S. Department of Commerce, women hold a disproportionately low share of STEM undergraduate degrees, especially in engineering. The women who do earn a STEM degree are less likely than their male counterparts to do work in a STEM profession, choosing to work in education or healthcare instead. We're about to introduce you to two guests who are looking at the next generation of women, and they think they may have the answer to turn things around. How? Well, it starts with toys, STEM toys, that is. They can help inspire girls to become engineers and innovators. They also believe that the pervasive pink princess culture is adversely affecting girls during their most crucial formative years. Like most girls at 8 years old, Alice Brooks asked for a Barbie doll on her Christmas gift wish list, but she got a handsaw instead. With that saw, she learned how to make her own dolls, and 10 years later was studying mechanical engineering at MIT. Ultimately, she received a master's degree in mechanical engineering design at Stanford University and co-founded Roominate, a toy company that creates engineering toys for girls. Also joining us is ANEA BOQUE, creator and director of Real Girl, a company dedicated to teaching girls essential life skills to reach their full potential. ANEA is also the author of the book titled 9 Ways We Are Screwing Up Our Girls and How We Can Stop. And I want to welcome both of you to Full Frame. Let's start there with the handsaw, because we had a chance to chat briefly beforehand. And your parents aren't the typical kind of parents. I mean, they never kind of pushed you in this direction. Tell us about their backgrounds and that kind of environment.
So my mother's a math professor and my dad's a roboticist. And they just made it normal at home to want to take a piece of wood and cut it apart with a saw and turn it into something else.
ANEA, what's great about your book, and I love it, is the foreword to the book is Jennifer Buffett, and she talks about being a twin and how the boy's treated this way and she's treated another way. And I think just reading that really kind of shows how stark and some of the things that parents do and the environment that they grow up in, that you don't even realize how some are pushed in this direction, others are pushed in that direction. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, and I do think that's a great example, because it shows so clearly when you have a boy and a girl not only growing up in the same environment, but like from the same womb at the same time, that the parents, their own programming is brought to the table when they start to parent their children. So in Alice's case, she had parents who brought their programming, which was, very science-oriented, and this is what we do, and we build things, and whether you're a girl or a boy, you actively can be a constructor of your environment. And when girls don't have those messages, they tend to be programmed to believe that they're sort of just bystanders instead of active participants.
And I think the statistic is at 8 years old, that's when they kind of go in the other direction. They might think, wow, STEM would be great up until 8, and then all of a sudden they've kind of programmed in another direction. Is that how you see it?
I do, actually, and I think what happens, the stats that came out of NYU that I first saw that just took my breath away were that the average girl's self-esteem peaks at the age of 9 and then plummets. And that's right about the time that they're entering adolescence. And a key part of adolescence for boys and girls is the process of individuation. So as girls are now consciously thinking, who am I supposed to be in the world to be an active, acceptable, successful participant, they're getting messages about what they are and are not supposed to do. And that includes the area of science.
And let's talk a little bit more about that, Alice, because when you go off to college, boy, I imagine there was maybe 1 or 2 boys in each one of these classes you went to. I mean, I'm joking, of course. I mean, what was it like? You were definitely a minority, at least if you look at the stats, that's the way it looks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, women are in the minority just going into school, and then every step along the way, there's all these forces where they're going into a different field or dropping into something different. So how we looked at it was get them as young as possible, 8 and even younger, make them get excited about engineering and technology and make it something fun that they're really confident about.
What about the toys? We're looking at some here. How can that change things? And I know that you had on that wish list a Barbie, but undoubtedly you were pleased that you got the handsaw in the long run. But how do we change those perceptions, those ways of looking at things?
It's really about opening girls up to more possibilities. So the more they can explore when they're younger, the more options they have later on. They can choose which field they want to go in, but if they have those options when they're younger. So with Roominate, what we're doing is opening them up to building and to doing circuits and making it fun. You start with a dollhouse and you design the furniture to go inside. Then you wire up a windmill. And in the process of doing that, you're learning about circuits and you're learning how to put everything together.
I think it may have even been in your book, ANEA. There's a letter from a little girl to, was it to Legos or something? Like, I keep looking at all the parts here and there aren't any girls, and actually there's been really kind of a revolution in the last year or two where moms and dads as well have kind of stepped up and said, hey, the landscape's got to change.
Right, and I think that's the power that we underestimate, is in a capitalist society, consumers have a tremendous amount of power. So if parents start to say, this is what we want, and Alice and I were just talking earlier about the Lego, the the scientists, they made a limited number of them. Why would they do that? Because they didn't anticipate that there would be so many parents saying, oh, no, I want my daughter to have a Lego set with strong female characters in the role of science and engineering. So, yeah, there's a tremendous amount of power that we have as parents if we start demanding something different.
And I guess somebody had done a study back a while ago that if Barbie was a real person, her hands, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. But now even Mattel's kind of responded to this as well, haven't they? I mean, it's gradual steps. I see that look on your face. Okay, maybe I'm going too far here, but we are seeing some of the larger ones kind of recognize that they have to kind of change.
I think that there is slowly, and with the success of new toys like Roominate, you know, again, in a capitalist society, these toy giants are going to respond and say, oh, okay, well, if that's what they want, that's where the money is, and we'll follow that. But until we continue to just sort of go with the status quo, this is what girls play with, this is what boys play with, we're going to just continue to diminish the possibilities girls have.
Okay, so tell me about the ruminating that goes into Roominate. Did you just sit there and say, you know what, I'm so sick of what I see out there, I'm going to create something, or how did this come about?
Well, I started this company with a friend from grad school, and we both were female engineers, and we both, for the past few years, been two of the only women in our classes, and we started talking about why we'd chosen engineering, and for both of us, it was things we'd played with when we were younger. So for me, it was a saw. For Bettina, it was her Legos. And we just wanted to make that experience, that hands-on, open-ended, creative experience, accessible for all girls. And that's how we came up with the idea. And we just studied girls to see what they would want to play with.
And why are STEM toys important in your estimation?
Well, I think if you look in the classroom, when circuits come out in California, they come out in 4th grade, and teachers have told us boys get excited, they run to the front because they've played with toys that have circuits in them. So they're excited, they know what that is. And they see girls hanging back because they think maybe that's not for me. And it's so important to just expose them to it, give them the opportunity to like it and be excited about it, so that when it comes out in the classroom, some of them are going to get really excited and want to pursue that.
I see you nodding your head.
Exactly. I mean, I think as human beings, we tend to create the things that we see in our own reality. You know, we grow them. And I often think that what we're doing with girls is sort of like what we do when we keep a plant in a pot that's too small. We literally hinder its growth. So by exposing girls to these kinds of toys, and even just showing them women in positions that are unlike the status quo, it gives them permission to grow beyond where we've kept them thus far.
What about the pink princess culture? Can you talk about this? And I know you touch on a lot of this stuff in your book. It's a big problem, isn't it?
It is a big problem, and mostly because, you know, I say to my 6-year-old, what do princesses really do? You know, we talk about a princess being part of a royal family. In fact, a princess would have a fair bit of power and a say in different things. But because princess culture really stems from fairy tales, which we start feeding our children from the time they can sit on our laps, we tell girls that being a princess means being pretty, being helpless, and waiting for your happily ever after to begin once a prince shows up. We give boys a very different message. We say, go out there, figure out what you want, create it for yourself, and then bring a mate along at some point if you decide that that's what you want. It's a very different message.
Daddy's little girl, which is something else you talk about. But what's interesting is you're daddy's little girl. We talked to an astronaut who was a daddy's little girl, and guess what daddy did? He took her to his job, and he was an electrician, and he showed her how to do it. The dads can play an important role, and you have this self-checklist, which I went through, and dads can really send different kinds of messages along the way. And obviously Alice got the right kind of message, but it's easy for the dad to send the wrong messages too.
It is. Part of the problem is I think we underestimate the role of fathers in their daughter's overall development. He is the #1 and the primary and most important male role model. He sets the bar. So if he treats her the way he's been programmed, right, with men in relation to women are supposed to see them sort of as helpless, and it feeds my sense of purpose by having to rescue, then that's what he'll tend to do, and that sends a strong message to his daughter. Whereas if you have a father that says, you can do this, I believe you can do anything you set your mind to, you have a problem, let's figure out how to fix it. Let's go through it together, as opposed to saving her and fixing all the time for her.
Because you said to me before we even got out here, a lot of what happened with you happened in the home. It wasn't necessarily the classroom.
I got that saw, and my dad said, okay, go build something.
And it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And then with that kind of background, it's also, you know, having your parents involved as they are, that's such a great message as well. So tell us about, if you run us through, show us what this is all about, and why you're finding a lot of girls who are all, I'm a guy, I'm kind of excited to try some of this.
We have a lot of boys playing with it too.
I'm sure you do. So walk us through, what do we have here?
So this is the house that you can build with Roominate, one of the many houses. So you start by building the structure. We have these wall and floor panels, and then you design furniture to go inside. Oops. So you can put together chairs. It all snaps together.
Oh, that's great.
And then you wire it up. So you put in windmills, we have lights, we have over here an elevator, and it's just pulling all these components together and building the world that you want to play in. So all our products are very open-ended. So a 6-year-old who's never put batteries in something, all of a sudden she's making her own giant windmill, and she's designing the whole world for her dolls to play in.
Oh, that's great. And there's no right way or wrong way, and that's part of the whole learning experience, right?
That's the best learning we feel like comes from figuring things out for yourself. We make a lot of entry points for all different types of girls. So a girl that really likes crafting, she can start with making the little decorations, or a girl that knows about circuits, she can start with the circuits, or there's so many different points that they can start from, and then they can come together and do this whole experience.
So now, as both of you look at this, and I know this is going to market shortly, correct?
We're out online right now. We're about to go into major retail stores.
Exactly. So walk me through where you see things, maybe 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and what the universities are going to look like in the future. It's not going to be you sitting in the classroom with a bunch of guys, right? I mean, what's your vision?
Our vision is to turn this into a toy that can touch girls everywhere across the world, just in all of the homes, getting these girls excited about new things. So we started 2 years ago, so in 8 years maybe that'll have more girls doing engineering, but we want that to be a big part of their inspiration for getting interested in engineering or technology.
And ANEA, when you watch this and look at this, and you've got girls yourself, what do you think?
I just think that the most important thing that we can teach girls or help them develop is their sense of personal agency, their ability to act and have an impact on their own environment, and this is it. Like, in their most important sort of developmental years, here they are. I love that they started with, I'm always about, like, start where people are. So there's no question that girls are drawn to this idea of houses, doll houses, and little figurines, and to step into something familiar and then take them beyond that at this incredibly developmental time in their life. This is world changing.
Can you still be a princess and a scientist at the same time? Would you want to be?
I think so. Look, you know what? This is what is so important about the Brave movie. I'm just a huge, to me, everything started to really change in a big way when that movie came out, because it challenges every traditional norm around what a princess is and what role girls and women have in their own lives. So to be a princess like Merida and say, I will play from my own hand, I will ride my horses and shoot my bow as I choose, when girls see that, it will give them permission to do the same thing.
Alice, one final question. When you go into a house and you see this, and they're going to be in every house in America probably in the next few years, right? What would be your vision of what you'd like to see? Maybe a little girl knocking a boy out of the way and doing something like this, or just both of them working on it together, or just the girl just fascinated in creating something? Or
well, what we're starting to see already is that these girls are making things we never would have dreamed of making with the toy that we designed. So we've gotten girls making the Golden Gate Bridge, which we copied here not as nicely as the 11-year-old had designed it. Car washes with spinning brushes. You wouldn't automatically think from a dollhouse that you're going to go right to a car wash, but that imagination was sparked. Rocket ships. I mean, it's all about their imagination, their creativity, and them building up their self-confidence as they make these stories and solve these problems.
That's fascinating. Who needs a chair? I'm going to make a rocket ship. So that's great. Thank you both for coming in. It's been a delight, and terrific book.
Thank you.
Terrific product. Both should be in your home. How's that? That was a pitch. You guys didn't even have to do it. Coming up next, this week's close-up on a Brazilian musical tradition that has become a symbol of female empowerment in the United States.